Right, welcome back to another video. Here we have r/prorevenge. A little bit longer than the last one, but yeah, let's just get straight into it. I orchestrated a vast conspiracy to get a co-worker fired. I used to work at a hospital data center in the network operations group. We physically sat in a room 24/7 next to servers to make sure things didn't catch on fire, monitor for alerts, and did routine things like swap out tape backups, but it was pretty simple work. This was ostensibly a tech job, but there were people who had been there for many years back when you had to change out the printer and paper and run a command from the IBM mainframe. It was on really specialized hardware and software that was difficult to apply elsewhere, so it had become a dead-end job. And because there were people who weren't very tech savvy at all, who weren't given much responsibility, you can't tell some people that they can log into a server and others not. So we were reduced to the lowest common denominator. We were a network operations center where nobody was allowed to interact with any network equipment. Lowest common denominator, you say? Meet my new supervisor. Karen, not her real name but definitely her real spirit, had been there for over 20 years and got a job solely based on seniority. She was a sociopathic narcissist and one of the most unpleasant people I've ever encountered. Shortly after I was hired, we were bought by another hospital and combined data centers. Karen was demoted to shift lead and had to work with us in a 24/7 rotation. She was very bad at her job, and our responsibilities diminished to very little. We had no agency to fix any problems of our own because it had to be a problem that Karen could solve, and Karen was both lazy and stupid. After a couple of years, I was promoted. On my first day, after they announced the promotion, she said, "You will fail," just straight to my face. But she had a powerful tool at her disposal, the hospital bureaucracy. Since the place was unionized, the hospital had a just cause firing policy instead of an at-will policy, even for non-unionized employees. This, I think, generally a good thing, but on the edges. It set up ridiculous situations where it was impossible to lose your job unless you were really egregious about it with repeated violations or you showed up drunk or high. We had someone steal computer equipment and they kept their job. It was nuts. And Karen had been there nearly 30 years, so she wasn't getting fired without a lot of work. That's okay, she was terrible at her job. One of the most important things about the job was monitoring for an alert which would pop up, and there was a procedure we had to go through in order for some data to go through. If we didn't do this, then a nurse wouldn't get their lab results back. So in one case, an alert came in, Karen saw it, and decided to keep browsing the web. Because of this, a patient from the cardiac ICU was going into surgery and the doctors and nurses operating on the patient couldn't get a white blood cell count, I think. I'm not a doctor, I just work in a building with lots of them. It was something very dangerous for this patient, and the patient died. This still did not get Karen fired. The reasoning from HR? Well, it didn't directly lead to harm. She didn't even feel bad about it, just complete soulless sociopath. I'm real pro-worker in general, but some jobs you just absolutely have to do. I was so mad, she had to go. I kept a paper trail of everything she messed up on. I wasn't nitpicky, literal life and death stuff here. Verbal warning, first written warning, second written warning, final written warning, termination. A slog, and I'd rather spend my time doing anything else, but that's the way it went. Then she figured out she could work the system. As she approached work Armageddon, termination, she would tell HR that she was being harassed. The person harassing her was different every time, of course, which would trigger a mandatory investigation. This investigation took about 6 months. They wouldn't find anything, and we would carry on. Except these warnings, they had a 6-month expiration, so she could always reset the clock when it got close. Everyone was helpless. Even the CIO couldn't do anything about it because of the bureaucracy. Karen was a menace, and the entire IT department had to interact with the data center staff, and that meant interacting with her, and she was universally disliked. She had 20 years until retirement and would outlast the heat death of the universe. Then I had an idea. What if, under the guise of developing skills relevant to the 21st century, required everyone working in the Network Operations Center to pass the Net Plus exam? It's not a difficult exam, but it's not trivially easy. I felt pretty sure that everyone on the team fell above the line between able to pass and not able to pass, except Karen. We would give everyone better titles, significant pay raise, and entrust us to do more of the equipment, which is something everyone desperately wanted. The people could actually leave the hospital with transferable skills and do something else if they wanted to and not feel trapped. I spent 3 years in meetings with HRs, with my director, the CIO, with HR again, job description meetings that took 6 hours to tweak small wording, hundreds of hours in meetings, red tape hell, absolute red tape hell. Do you have any idea what it takes to approve a significant raise in bureaucratic muck factory like that? But the raises were crucial, because it would absolutely not be fair to ask this of them. Pass a test or lose your job without a large carrot attached would lead to mutiny. And then it got approved. I also wrote the exam requirement into my own job description. It was important to still be able to do the job and not let my skills lapse just because I was promoted. Also, this means I could cover people when they were on vacation or sick. Plus, I also got that sweet pay bump. It went over well. I was nervous, but the plan made sense and I was able to communicate that. People would be more marketable, the job would be more interesting, and most importantly, they would be making 20% more than they were before. And I think it really helped that I also gave myself the same requirement when I absolutely could have chosen not to. The hospital will pay for off-site training. They will still get paid their full hourly during the training, including shift differential for second and third shifts. We paid for all the materials. I scheduled 8 hours a week for people to go to someplace quiet and study. The job itself had a ton of downtime so people could study. This was formally carved out time anyway. We paid for the exam, and if they failed, we paid for a second attempt. We were given 8 months to pass the test, so this is how it was for the 8 months. I did not want Karen to have any excuse whatsoever, and somehow convince HR that this process was rushed or unfair. Everyone passed on the first attempt except Karen. Karen did not pass her second or her third attempt, which was a bonus attempt. Karen, being the classic narcissist, thought this was somehow all about her, that this is a vast conspiracy engineered over multiple years and hundreds of hours just to get rid of her, and she would tell everyone within earshot that that's what was going on. Yeah, okay Karen. You realise how insane that sounds, right? Not everything is about you. Well, only in this case is, but still. Only I and 2 other people know that. I remember the exact time and date we told her. She was in such deep denial that it could ever happen. She thought she was bulletproof. I don't think I'll ever achieve anything more satisfying in my career. I'm not usually one to take satisfaction in seeing someone's livelihood go, but she was uniquely awful. She was a patient danger, and it had been nearly a decade of working with her by this point, and I was just so sick and tired of her BS. I was a hero the day after she was fired. I went to the main office for a meeting and the people were congratulating me like I had a kid or won a marathon or something. Even the CIO, they were just happy for me that I didn't have to supervise Karen anymore. But in my headcanon, they were congratulating me for pulling off this elaborate plan. Morale back at the data center was also high. We learned interesting things. A couple of my co-workers left for better gigs elsewhere. The ones who were content in staying were able to stay, and we all had more money and job security. Because anything could set off a BS Karen harassment complaint, people were stressed out working with her. Her being gone was like a breath of fresh air. Newcomers were told stories of Karen, and they seemed exaggerated. They were not. In order to solve a very important and extremely difficult problem, I pulled off a vast workplace conspiracy that improved the lives of the people I worked with, in addition for keeping our patients safe. Getting Karen fired is my greatest and most difficult accomplishment, and I can't put it on a CV anywhere. Wow, that's insane. Like, she 100% deserved it. I mean, she literally put a patient in danger, well, killed practically a patient, even though, she wasn't blamed for it. Her actions led to the death of a patient. She 100% deserved to be fired for what she did. But the fact that OP managed to pull off this massive, how long did it say, 3-year-long thing that went on to get this test approved and get her fired after 3 attempts, Everyone else got 2, Karen got 3, still failed. It just, it makes me happy knowing that stuff like this happens, People get what they deserve, and karma always comes around to bite me in the ass. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Not really much watching, but more listening to this video. Obviously, I know I'm not exactly the greatest. I'm not perfect at doing this. It's only my 2nd video, but I will do everything I can to improve. You have no idea how many outtakes this has taken me. It's taken me a while to do this, but I will do my best to improve and get more videos out for you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.